Lin Yi, I'd rather die than marry you. He snapped his eyes open, the dazzling crystal chandelier making him squint. The air was thick with a mixture of heavy perfume and red wine. The excessively well-ironed suit on his body felt tight, making his chest stuffy. He blinked blankly. His gaze fell upon a banquet hall filled with glamorous figures and rustling silks. A crowd in formal attire surrounded him, their eyes filled with the playful anticipation of a good show. Lin Yi. The name shot through his mind like an electric current. He was Lin Yi, but a different one. Just last night, he had stayed up until 3 in the morning reading a novel called The Dragon King's Return. In the book, the villain, whose name differed from his by only one character, was a worthless second-generation heir who used his family's influence to run rampant. During his engagement to the daughter of the Su family, the Dragon King crashed the party and stole the bride. From then on, the villain was locked in a life-and-death struggle with the Dragon King, only to end up being thrown into the river to feed the fish. Wait, engagement? The Su family's daughter? Lin Yi abruptly looked down and saw the corsage pinned to his chest. He then looked up at the woman glaring at him. She wore a moon-white fishtail gown, her long hair coiled in a meticulous bun, her features as cold as frost. Who else could she be but the book Su Wansi? The surrounding scene, the suit on his body, the person before him. And that line, "I'd rather die than marry you." It was all unmistakably the famous scene from Chapter 12 of The Dragon King's Return, the engagement party of the villain Lin Yi and Su Wansi. I become Lin Yi. A buzzing sound filled Lin Ye's head, and a cold sweat instantly soaked his back. Of all the people to become, why did it have to be this unlucky fool destined to be tormented to death by the Dragon King? According to the book's plot, in the next second, the Dragon King, Xiao and I, would kick down the door, shove him to the ground, and step on his face while delivering a harsh threat. Lin Yi, take a look at yourself and see if you're worthy. Wansi is my woman. And Su Wansi, who is currently shouting, "I'd rather die than marry you," would be moved by Xiao Ni's overbearing CO saves the damsel act, turn on him on the spot, point at his nose, and call him trash, and finally leave with the Dragon King. Then he, the villain, would have a complete breakdown and from then on, walk the path of a self-destructive cycle, cause trouble for the Dragon King, get humiliated by the Dragon King, hate the Dragon King even more, until his final fate of being thrown into the river. No, I absolutely cannot repeat the same mistakes. Lin Yi clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. He had to lay low. He must lay low. If he couldn't afford to offend the Dragon King, couldn't he at least hide from him? As his mind raced, Su Wansi, standing before him, spoke again, her voice as cold as ice. Lin Yi, don't think you can trap me just because our families have an alliance. Su Wansi's marriage is not for others to dictate. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Here it comes. The plot is proceeding as written. He quickly began a frantic internal monologue. Sister, you're so right. Whoever wants this stupid arranged marriage can have it. But please don't turn on me the second you see Xiao and I. That guy is a master of cliches. Kicking doors, hitting people, and making threats are his 3 moves. In your last life, you were completely fooled by this act and even helped him deal with me. No, with the original owner, causing the Lin family to go bankrupt and ending up miserable yourself. Just as Su Wansi was about to utter more harsh words, a string of mutterings suddenly reached her ears. The voice carried a sense of hurried relief, yet also a touch of frustration, perfectly articulating all her disgust for this marriage. It even predicted what that man named Xiao and I was about to do. She paused for a moment, a hint of inquiry entering her gaze as she looked at Lin Yi. The Lin Yi before her seemed different from the rumors. According to the rumors, Lin Yi was arrogant and domineering. To force her into this marriage, he had even sent people to smash her studio. But at this moment, he just stood there, a dazed look in his eyes. Not only did he not get angry as expected, he actually looked a bit cowardly. And what did he mean by in your last life? Just as she was pondering this, the doors to the banquet hall were kicked open with a loud bang. A man in a cheap suit, followed by a few cronies, stormed in. His eyes held a deliberately arrogant air. After scanning the room, his gaze landed squarely on Lin Yi and Su Wansi. Lin Yi, get the hell away from her. Xiaoni's voice boomed like thunder. Wansi is my woman. Are you even worthy of touching her? He's here. Lin Ye's heart tightened, and he subconsciously took half a step back. According to the plot, Xiao and I was about to make his move. He quickly chanted in his mind, "Don't hit me, don't hit me. I'll leave right now. Can't I just call off this wedding? Brother Xiao and I, please calm down. Su Wansi is all yours, all yours." Xiao and I. But Su Wansi took a step forward, shielding Lin Yi. She turned to face Xiao and I at the door, her eyes holding none of the amazement from the plot. Instead, they were filled with thick sarcasm. I was wondering who it was. "So it's you." Xiao and I was stunned. "Want you. My marriage is a matter between the Lin and Su families. What does it have to do with you?" Su Wansi cut him off, her tone even colder than when she spoke to Lin Yi, kicking down the door and crashing a banquet. "Do you think this is a place for you to run wild?" The arrogance on Xiao Ni's face froze, as if he hadn't expected this reaction. Lin Yi was also stunned. This isn't right. According to the plot, Su Wansi should be putting on a stubborn act of, "Even though I don't like Lin Yi, you Xiao and I can't order me around." Then, Xiao and I would win her over with a few lines of bullshit like, "I'll protect you." How did she end up confronting him directly? Is Su Wansi on the wrong meds today? Lin Yi couldn't help but mutter inwardly. This script is wrong. Could it be that when I transmigrated, I came with a plot-altering function? Su Wansi's ears twitched slightly, hearing Lin Ye's mutter. The corner of her mouth curved into an almost imperceptible smile. She looked up at Xiao and I, her tone even more detached. "If Mr. Xiao is here to cause trouble, then I'll have to ask security to escort you out." After speaking, she didn't even spare Xiao and I another glance, turning to Lin Yi and saying, "Let's go toast Grandpa. We shouldn't keep the elders waiting." Lin Yi. He was pulled forward by Su Wansi in a daze, his mind a complete blank. What on earth is going on? Xiao and I stood frozen, watching their retreating backs, his face alternating between pale and livid. The lackey behind him tried to step forward, but was shot a fierce glare. This was never part of the plan. Why would Su Wansi defend Lin Yi? Lin Yi, being dragged along, was frantically reviewing the situation in his mind. She's actually pulling me away? She's actually defending me? She actually didn't go with Xiao and I? This plot deviation is way too big. Could it be that because I didn't act arrogant according to the original character's script, I triggered some hidden plot line? No, I have to keep my cool. I can't say anything rash. What if the plot somehow corrects itself? He completely failed to notice that Su Wansi, beside him, was listening to his incessant inner monologue. The inquiry in her eyes gradually turned to understanding, finally melting into a hint of a smile that even she herself didn't perceive. This engagement party, from the very beginning, had gone completely off the rails. After the engagement party, Lin Yi fled home as if escaping. He collapsed on the sofa, staring at the crystal chandelier on the ceiling, his mind replaying the scenes from before. Su Wansi's back as she shielded him, Xiao Ni's thwarted expression, and the shocked gazes of all the guests. None of this was how it was written in Return of the Dragon King. Could it be that my transmigration method was wrong, causing the plot to mutate? Lin Yi scratched his hair, suddenly feeling that being a good-for-nothing slacker wasn't easy either. Whatever, as long as I don't end up thrown in a river, the plot can go off the rails however it wants. Just as he said that, his phone rang. It was his dedicated lackey, Zhang Biao. "Young master, your retreating to advanced tactic last night was brilliant." Zhang Biao's booming voice came through the receiver, filled with undisguised admiration. "The whole circle is now saying you deliberately showed weakness to make Xiao and I let his guard down. But in reality, you've already captured Miss Su's heart." Lin Yi. When had he ever retreated to advance? He was so scared he had nearly dropped dead on the spot. "Also, young master," Zhang Biao added, "you previously asked me to dig up dirt on Xiao and I. I found something. That kid opened a logistics company in the east of the city with funds from an unknown source. It seems to be related to smuggling." Lin Ye's heart skipped a beat. Smuggling? The book did mention that Xiao and I had made his initial fortune by reselling smuggled cars, later laundering the dirty money to become a so-called inspirational entrepreneur. The original character had tried to use this against him, only to have Xiao and I turn the tables, framing him for malicious slander and nearly landing him in jail. Stop investigating. Lin Yi quickly stopped him. Zhang Biao, listen to me. From now on, stay far away from Xiao and I. We won't get involved in any of his business. Isn't it good to just be a peaceful, rich second-generation heir? Zhang Biao was stunned. Based on past experience, as soon as the young master heard dirt on his rival in love, his eyes would light up, and he would immediately order to crush him to death. Why the sudden change of heart today? But he didn't dare ask more and could only reply, "Yes, young master, I understand." Hanging up, Zhang Biao stroked his chin and pondered. The young master suddenly told me to stop investigating. He must have a deeper plan. Smuggling is a serious crime. Exposing it directly would be letting Xiao and I off too easily. Could it be that the young master wants to wait for Xiao and I to make a bigger mess before taking him down all at once? Yes, that must be it. The young master's tactic of loosening the reins to get a better grip is even more ruthless than his move at the engagement party. Thus, Zhang Biao turned around and sent a message to his subordinates. Keep a close eye on Xiaoni's logistics company. The quieter, the better. Don't alert the target. Meanwhile, Lin Yi, after hanging up, was praying to the air, "Please don't court death. Please don't court death." That guy Xiao and I is the protagonist. He has plot armor. Going head-to-head with him is just suicide. He didn't notice the study door being gently pushed open as Su Wansi walked in. She was here to deliver the final documents for the engagement banquet. And by the way, listen to Lin Ye's inner voice again. After returning home last night, she had her assistant look into Xiaoni's logistics company and, as expected, found abnormalities in the cash flow, with close ties to several overseas gray area companies. It matched the smuggling Lin Ye complained about in his head. Hearing Lin Ye's prayer now, Su Wansi raised an eyebrow. Was he genuinely afraid of Xiao and I, or was he acting? Lin Yi. She placed the documents on the table and got straight to the point. About the engagement, I think. We should call it off. Immediately, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, Lin Yi shot up, terrified of being bound by the plot for even a second longer. Miss Su, rest assured, I absolutely won't pester you. I'll go tell my dad right now. He screamed frantically in his mind. Hurry up and agree. If we break the engagement, I can completely escape the main storyline and just be a rich heir who does nothing but eat and wait for death. Xiaoni's woman can be his, the world can be his. All I want are my sports cars and video games. Su Wansi, she had originally intended to say, let's reconsider for a while. After all, Lin Ye's inner voice could always provide her with crucial information. Keeping him around might be more useful than breaking off the engagement. But seeing how desperate he was, it seemed he truly was afraid of this marriage alliance. I didn't say I want to call it off. Su Wansi changed her tune. Seeing his stunned expression, she found a little amusing. The cooperation project between our two families haven't been finalized yet. The engagement can't be touched for the time being. Lin Yi, not following the script again? While he was dazed, Su Wansi's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned slightly. It's Xiao and I, she said flatly, answering the call. What is it? Whatever was said on the other end of the line, Su Wansi's voice turned colder. I don't have time to go to your logistics company. And don't call me Wansi. We're not that close. After hanging up, she looked at Lin Yi, her tone calm. He said his logistics company is opening and invited me to the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Lin Ye's inner complaints immediately went online. Ribbon cutting? More like he wants to give you a tour of his smuggling warehouse. The book said he used the excuse of touring the company to trick you into seeing his power, then made up a sob story about having to smuggle because he was being hunted by enemies to win your sympathy. After hearing this, a faint smile touched Su Wansi's lips. I refused. She paused, then added, compared to his company of dubious origins, the Lin family's business is much more reassuring. Lin Yi was completely stunned. This Su Wansi, how did it seem like? She was leaning more and more toward his side. After seeing Su Wansi off, Lin Yi collapsed onto the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. He had a feeling that something was quietly changing, and it seemed the source of this change was inextricably linked to him. But he couldn't figure out what the problem was, no matter how hard he thought. After being rejected by Su Wansi, Xiao and I was so angry he nearly smashed everything in his office. Useless. Can't even handle a single woman. He roared at his subordinate, but a wicked fire burned within him. On what grounds did that good-for-nothing Lin Yi deserve Su Wanxi's special treatment? Just then, he received an invitation from the Martial Arts Association, inviting him to the Martial Arts Exchange Banquet on the weekend. Xiao Ni's eyes lit up. A martial arts banquet? That guy Lin Yi would definitely be there. The original Lin Yi came from a martial arts family. His grandfather had been a titan of the martial arts world in his day. But unfortunately, by his generation, he couldn't even master the basics, earning him the reputation of useless young master in their circle. He, Xiao and I, on the other hand, had stumbled upon an ancient martial arts manual in a chance encounter and was now an expert in hidden energy. He had been looking for an opportunity to make a name for himself. Lin Yi, you think you can hide? A sinister smile spread across Xiao Ni's face. This weekend, I'll let you know what a real gap in power looks like. Weekend, at the martial arts hall, Lin Yi stood at the entrance, his legs trembling. He checked his reflection in the glass door. A brand new training uniform made his shoulders look broad and his waist narrow. But unfortunately, inside was the soul of a corporate drone who couldn't even do radio calisthenics properly. It's over, it's over. Xiao and I is definitely going to force me to spar, then beat me to a pulp and act like a hero in front of Chu Yao. Lin Yi prayed frantically in his mind. Chu Yao, oh Chu Yao, you mustn't be fooled by him. In the book, you fell for his pretending to be weak to catch the prey trick and helped him deal with me. As he was muttering, a cold voice came from behind him. Lin Yi whipped his head around, and when he saw Chu Yao, he was so scared he almost jumped. Chu Yao was dressed in a black combat suit, her long hair tied in a high ponytail, her eyes sharp and fierce. She was one of Xiao Ni's harem members in the book and a renowned martial arts genius. According to the plot, she should be on Xiao Ni's side today, clapping and cheering as he got beaten up. Miss Chu. Lin Yi forced a smile that was uglier than a grimace. Chu Yao looked at him, her eyes filled with scrutiny. She had come with her grandfather and had faintly overheard Lin Yi's inner voice at the entrance just now. How did he know Xiao and I would force him to spar? And that I had helped Xiao and I before? Come on, let's go in. Chu Yao didn't say much more, turning to walk inside. Lin Yi braced himself and followed, his internal complaints ceaseless. It's over. It's over. She must be thinking about how to watch me make a fool of myself. When Xiao and I makes his move later, she might even cheer him on. Chu Yao's steps paused for a moment. She glanced back at him, her gaze growing even colder. This Lin Yi, what on earth is going on in his head? Quite a few people had already arrived at the martial arts hall. Seeing Lin Yi, many of them broke into mocking smiles. Yo, isn't this young Master Lin? You actually dare to wear a training uniform today? Don't tell me he's here to be Xiao Ni's sparring partner? Lin Yi pretended not to hear, shrinking into a corner and trying to be invisible. Before long, Xiao and I arrived. He wore a white training uniform, his posture was straight and tall, and his face held just the right amount of confidence. The moment he entered, he captured everyone's attention. Brother Zhao's presence is truly extraordinary. Someone immediately stepped forward to flatter him. Xiao and I ignored them, his gaze locking directly onto Lin Yi, the corner of his mouth curling into a sneer. Lin Yi, I hear your grandfather is a martial arts grandmaster? How is it that when it comes to you, you can't even hold a basic horse stance? A wave of derisive laughter rose from the crowd. A fire ignited in Lin Yi's heart. Insult him, fine, but don't drag his grandfather into it. But he held it in, forcing a fake smile. Brother Xiao jests. I have no interest in martial arts. I can't compare to Brother Zhao's exceptional talent. But inside, he was roaring. Exceptional talent, my ass. Your skills came from cheat. He's definitely going to force me to spar later, then pretend to slip up and injure me. I'm not falling for it. As expected, Xiao and I said, since you're here at the martial arts hall, why not have a little spar? Just a friendly one, to let everyone see what the Lin family's heir is really made of. Everyone's eyes focused on Lin Yi, waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Just as Lin Yi was about to find an excuse to refuse, Chu Yao, who was beside him, suddenly spoke up. Xiao and I, a spar is fine, but I have a condition. Xiao and I was taken aback for a moment. Miss Chu, please speak. Keep it friendly. No heavy blows. Chu Yao looked at him, her gaze sharp. After all, Lin Yi doesn't know martial arts. If you injure him, word will only spread that you're a bully who preys on the weak. Xiao Ni's expression stiffened. He had originally planned to use the spar to teach Lin Yi a lesson. Chu Yao's words had just ruined his plan. Lin Yi was also stunned. Why was Chu Yao speaking up for him? In the book, wasn't she always on Xiao Ni's side? Miss Chu has a point. Xiao Ni suppressed his anger. I will go easy on him. He looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi, you're not scared, are you? Trying to provoke me? Lin Yi sneered internally. Is that the only trick you have? I'd be the real fool if I dared to fight you. He was about to open his mouth to refuse when his family's old butler suddenly walked over and said in a low voice, Young master, Headmaster Li is sitting inside. He's an old friend of the master. If you back down now, you'll bring complete shame to the master's name. Lin Yi. He turned his head to look towards the inner hall and, sure enough, saw a white-bearded old man looking in his direction, his eyes filled with expectation. That was his grandfather's sworn brother, someone who valued the legacy of martial arts above all else. It's over. There's no getting out of this now. Lin Yi wanted to cry, but had no tears, praying frantically in his heart, Go easy on me, and please, whatever you do, don't hit the face. He braced himself and stepped onto the training floor, striking a pose that even he found awkward. Shall I begin? A flicker of disdain crossed Xiao Ni's eyes as he assumed the opening stance of the flowing cloud palm. He was deliberately using Chu Yao's signature palm technique to show off in front of her. Take this. Xiao Ni let out a low shout, his palm striking towards Lin Yi with a fierce gust of wind. Terrified, Lin Yi squeezed his eyes shut and dodged. His foot slipped, and he somehow managed to evade the palm strike perfectly. The surroundings fell silent. Xiao Ni was also stunned. He dodged that. Lin Yi himself was bewildered, shouting in his mind, Luck! That was definitely pure luck. Xiao Ni snorted coldly and struck out again, this time faster. Lin Yi shut his eyes and flailed his arms wildly. Somehow, he dodged it again. No way. Lin Yi began to question his very existence. Xiao Ni's expression grew uglier and uglier. He increased his power, each strike fierce, yet Lin Yi always managed to coincidentally avoid them, sometimes by slipping, other times by tripping over his own feet. In any case, it looked like a blind cat catching a dead mouse. Standing below the platform, Chu Yao watched the scene unfold. Recalling Lin Yi's earlier inner thoughts, her eyes grew brighter and brighter. Xiao Ni's palm technique looks fierce, but it's actually full of openings, and his footing is unstable. Is this the skill he gained from a fortunate encounter? The foundation is too weak. It's over, it's over. He looks angry now. His attacks are getting heavier. Chu Yao suddenly called out, Xiao Ni, stop. Xiao Ni's movements froze, and he looked at her in confusion. Chu Yao walked onto the stage, looked at him, her eyes icy cold. Who taught you the flowing cloud palm? Xiao Ni was startled and casually replied, It's a family heirloom. Family heirloom? Chu Yao sneered. How come I don't know the flowing cloud palm can be practiced this way? Unstable lower body, erratic internal energy. Clearly you only secretly learned a few superficial moves and dare to come out here, swindling people. Xiao Ni's face changed dramatically. What nonsense are you talking about? Nonsense. Chu Yao stepped forward, striking out like lightning, her palm heading for Xiao Ni's chest. Xiao Ni quickly blocked, but was shaken back 3 steps, a trace of blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. The entire venue erupted in an uproar. Chu Yao looked at him, her eyes icy cold. With only this much skill, you dare to cause trouble in a martial arts hall? And you even dare to use my Chu family's palm technique? Xiao and I was both shocked and enraged. You? Get out. Chu Yao uttered a single word, her aura fully unleashed. Xiao and I looked at the disdainful gazes around him, then at the expressionless Chu Yao, gritted his teeth, clutched his heavily injured chest, and fled in a sorry state. Lin Yi stood on the stage, still not having reacted, when the old butler grabbed him. Young master, you are too amazing. You truly hide your skills well. Thunderous applause erupted around them. Curator Li stroked his beard and laughed heartily. Good boy. You have the demeanor of your grandfather back in the day. Lin Yi. He was clearly dodging the whole time, So how did he become hiding his skills well? He looked at Chu Yao, wanted to ask why she helped him, but saw Chu Yao nod at him, her eyes carrying a hint of approval. Lin Yi was completely bewildered. His plot had twisted so much he couldn't understand it anymore. The news of Xiao and I being taught a lesson by Chu Yao at the martial arts hall quickly spread throughout the entire circle. Have you heard? Xiao and I boasted he was a master of hidden internal energy, but ended up spitting blood after being slapped by Chu Yao. And Lin Yi, who usually looks like a good-for-nothing, actually managed to dodge all of Xiao Ni's attacks. He really hides his skills well. I always said young Master Lin wasn't simple. At the engagement banquet, Su Wanzi protected him, and at the martial arts hall, Chu Yao spoke up for him. His methods are brilliant. Lin Yi listened to Zhang Biao report these rumors, wishing he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Hiding my skills well, my ass. I was scared out of my wits. He raged at the heir. Why won't anyone believe that I'm just an ordinary rich second-generation heir? As he was feeling annoyed, Zhang Biao reported again. Young master, Miss Luo Shui from the Luo family has sent an invitation for you to attend her birthday banquet. Luo Shui? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Luo Shui in the book was the pampered daughter of the Luo family, a prominent medical family. She had poor health, took medicine all year round, and was also one of Xiao Ni's harem members. In the original plot, Xiao and I would cure her illness at her birthday banquet with an ancestral secret recipe, making her devoted to him ever since. No, I'm not going. Lin Yi refused without thinking. Xiao and I will definitely pretend to be a divine doctor at the birthday banquet. If I go, I'll just be handing myself over. He thought to himself, Luo Shui is also a pitiful person, forced by her family to drink all sorts of tonics. In reality, those medicines contain chronic toxins, precisely to control her. Xiao Ni's secret recipe is also just a temporary fix, making her feel energetic for a bit, so he can manipulate the Luo family's medical resources. He didn't notice that Luo Shui was right outside the door. She had just been about to knock when she overheard Lin Yi's thoughts, her pupils wide with shock. Luo Shui had come specifically today because she wanted to personally see this Lin Yi. She had heard about the engagement banquet and the martial art hall incident, and she kept feeling that this Lin Yi was different from the good-for-nothing in the rumors. Even stranger, recently whenever she got close to Lin Yi, she would hear some strange sounds. For example, right now, that voice clearly stated that the medicine she was taking contained poison. Luo Shui's fingers trembled slightly. She had been frail since childhood. Her family had invited countless famous doctors and prescribed all sorts of tonics, yet her health only worsened. It wasn't that she hadn't considered the possibility of problems with the medicine, but every time she raised her suspicions, her family would dismiss her with "You're thinking too much." Could it be? What Lin Yi said was true. At the same time, Lin Yi received a message from his father saying that Luo Shui was going to personally invite him, which made him feel utterly terrible. Why is she coming personally? His scalp tingled. Has the plot mutated again? Shouldn't she be clinging to Xiao and I for the secret recipe? Why is she looking for me? As he was grumbling internally, the next second, a knock sounded from outside the door. Lin Yi steeled himself and went out to greet the guest. And sure enough, it was Luo Shui. Luo Shui sat on the sofa, dressed in a light purple dress. Her face as pale as paper, yet her lips were an abnormal red, making her appear delicate and pitiful. Young Master Lin. Seeing Lin Yi, she braced herself on the sofa and stood up, her voice very soft. Miss Luo. Lin Yi quickly returned the greeting, his internal complaints incessant. Oh no, she must be pressured by her family. Want to win me over to deal with Xiao and I? But I just want to be a slacker. Why are all of Xiao Ni's harem members coming to me? Luo Shui heard these words, and her fingers tightened around the teacup. He really knew his situation. Young Master Lin, Luo Shui lifted her head, her eyes clear. I know that you and Xiao and I haven't been on good terms recently. To be honest, I don't like him either. Lin Yi, doesn't Luo Shui really like Xiao and I in the book? Why the sudden change of heart? I came this time to sincerely invite young Master Lin to my birthday banquet. Luo Shui's voice was soft. I heard that young Master Lin knows many famous doctors, and I wanted to ask you to help me take a look at my medicine. The alarm bells in Lin Ye's mind went off instantly. Here it comes, here it comes. This is Xiao Ni's part in the plot. She must be trying to make a fool out of me to give Xiao and I a chance to save the day. But all he could say was a perfunctory. How would I know any famous doctors? Miss Luo must be joking. Inwardly, however, he was frantically complaining. The label on the medicine bottle in her hand says calming decoction, but it's actually laced with cinnabar. A small amount calms the nerves, but long-term consumption leads to chronic poisoning. Xiao Ni's secret formula just uses licorice to neutralize the toxicity and make her feel better temporarily. It can't cure the root cause at all. Luo Shue's expression changed in an instant. The medicine bottle in her hand was precisely the calming decoction her family forced her to drink every day. Lin Yi hadn't even looked at the label, so how did he know it contained cinnabar? Young Master Lin. Luo Shue's voice trembled. How did you know? Know what? Lin Yi played dumb, but his heart skipped a beat. Did he let it slip? Seeing him feign ignorance, Luo Shue suddenly understood something. He was trying to warn her, but he didn't dare to say it outright. It's nothing. Luo Shue lowered her head, hiding the shock in her eyes. Since young Master Lin doesn't know any famous doctors, then forget it. But please, young Master Lin, you must come to the birthday banquet. With that, she stood up and bowed slightly. Pardon the intrusion. I'll be leaving now. Watching Luo Shue's departing figure, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. Finally sent her away. I hope she doesn't come looking for me again. But as soon as Luo Shue got into her car, she immediately said to her assistant, send all the medicine I've been taking recently for testing. The more detailed, the better. Also investigate Xiao Ni's background, especially his so-called ancestral secret formula. The assistant was taken aback for a moment. Miss, you suspect. Just do as I say. Luo Shue's voice was soft, but held an unquestionable firmness. She looked out the window in the direction of the Lin family villa with only one thought in her mind. This Lin Yi is definitely not simple. In the end, Lin Yi went to Luo Shue's birthday banquet. It wasn't because he wanted to join the fun, but because Su Wanxi and Xu Yao had both come and dragged him along. Luo Shue specifically invited you. It would be disrespectful not to go. Su Wanxi's tone was calm, but her mind was replaying Lin Ye's earlier complaint. There's something wrong with Luo Shue's medicine. Let's see what trick Xiao and I can pull this time. Xu Yao crossed her arms, her gaze sharp, clearly still remembering the incident at the martial arts hall. Sandwiched between the two women with powerful auras, Lin Yi felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. I'm just an ordinary person. Why do I have to be dragged here to watch the drama between the chosen one and his harem? He lamented inwardly. Xiao Ni's ancestral secret formula is definitely a fake. If something happens to Luo Shue after she drinks it later, don't you dare blame me. Hearing this, Su Wanxi and Xu Yao exchanged a glance, both seeing understanding in the other's eyes. As expected, Lin Yi knew there was a problem with Xiao Ni's secret formula. Just as they were speaking, Xiao and I arrived. He held an antique wooden box in his hand, a gentle smile on his face as he walked straight towards Luo Shue. Luo Shue, happy birthday. I brought you a gift that might be able to cure your illness. The surrounding people immediately gathered around, looking at the wooden box with curiosity. Xiao and I is about to make his big move. The alarm bells in Lin Ye's mind rang again. That's the box. It contains his ancestral secret formula, which is actually just some common herbs mixed with stimulants. It can temporarily boost one's spirits, but it's very harmful to the body. Luo Shue looked at the wooden box, her face pale. Her test results had come back. The medicine did indeed contain cinnabar, and long-term use would damage the liver and kidneys. As for Xiao Ni's ancestral secret formula, her assistant had also found out that it wasn't a secret formula at all, just some cheap herbs mixed with a small amount of stimulants. Thank you, Mr. Xiao. Luo Shue's voice was soft but distant. But my doctor has already made arrangement for my health, so I won't trouble you. The smile on Xiao Ni's face froze. Luo Shue. Moreover, Luo Shue interrupted him, her eyes clear. I don't really like to casually take things given by strangers. What if it's poisonous? Everyone around was stunned. Luo Shue had always been gentle. How could she say something like that to Xiao and I? Xiao Ni's face turned ugly in an instant. Luo Shue, what do you mean by that? I kindly brought you medicine, and you're saying it could be poison? I was just speaking casually. Luo Shui said faintly. Mr. Xiao, don't take it to heart. After speaking, she turned to Lin Yi, a faint smile on her face. Young Master Lin, could you accompany me to sit over there? I'm feeling a little unwell. Lin Yi, how did I get dragged into this again? He was dazedly pulled to a corner by Luo Shui, leaving Xiao and I standing alone, enduring the strange looks from the people around them. That was a painful slap in the face for Xiao and I. Lin Yi muttered to himself, but Luo Shui is way too bold, directly confronting the arrogant protagonist. Could it be that she's also been corrected by the plot? Hearing his inner voice, the corner of Luo Shui's mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. She said softly, Young Master Lin, thank you. Thank me for what? Lin Yi looked completely bewildered. Thank you for reminding me. Luo Shui looked at him, her gaze serious. There really is something wrong with my medicine. Lin Yi, when did I ever remind her? Just as he was about to ask further, Xiao and I suddenly walked over, his expression so dark it looked like it could drip water. Lin Yi, is this your doing again? What the hell does this have to do with me? Lin Yi retorted instinctively, while roaring inwardly. Are you crazy? You blame me because you can't pick up girls yourself? The arrogant protagonist script isn't something you can just act out whenever you want. Xiao and I was taken aback by his retort, then said angrily, just you wait. I'll make you understand the consequences of opposing me. With that, he turned and stormed off, his retreating figure looking both pathetic and furious. Watching his back, Lin Yi suddenly felt a little uneasy. A person like Xiao and I, after being slapped in the face one time after another, would definitely be driven to desperation. He looked towards Su Wanzi and Chu Yao, only to find they were also looking at him, their eyes filled with worry. Lin Yi was even more confused. Why were all these women, who were supposed to belong to Xiao and I, starting to care about him? The birthday banquet ultimately ended with Xiao Ni's pathetic departure. Sitting in the car on the way home, Lin Yi watched the night scenery flash by the window and felt for the first time that being a slacker wasn't so easy after all. Xiao Ni's revenge would come, sooner or later, and it seemed he could only wait passively as the plot continued to deviate. Sure enough, Xiao and I began to retaliate. First, several of the Lin Group's collaborative projects were suddenly sabotaged. Then, a few companies under the Lin Group were anonymously reported for tax evasion. Although Su Wanzi eventually helped suppress these issues, they still left Father Lin overwhelmed. It must be Xiao Ni's doing. Father Lin slammed the table in anger. That brat acts all high and mighty in public, but only plays dirty tricks behind the scenes. Lin Yi also knew in his heart that this was Xiao Ni's usual tactic. In the book, he relied on such underhanded methods to ruin many of his opponents. Dad, maybe we should just endure it for now. Lin Yi tried to persuade him. It's not worth it to go head-to-head with him. Endure it. Father Lin shot him a glare. When has our Lin family ever been bullied like this? Besides, do you think enduring it will solve the problem? That brat is an ungrateful bastard. The more you give him, the more he'll take. Lin Yi was speechless. He knew his father was right. A protagonist like Xiao and I wouldn't stop until he had completely crushed his opponent. Looks like being a slacker is impossible now. He sighed, his internal monologue tinged with helplessness. Xiao and I is forcing my hand. He definitely has some dirt on the Lin family, a mess left behind by the original owner's past foolishness. The book said he'll expose it at the shareholder meeting to ruin the Lin Group. Sitting beside him, Su Wanzi heard this, and her eyes sharpened. While helping the Lin family deal with those messes recently, she had also discovered some loopholes that seemed to have been left intentionally. It seemed they were related to the original owner's mess, Lin Yi mentioned. Uncle Lin, Su Wanzi began, I don't think we can just sit here and wait for disaster. Since Xiao and I has made a move, he must have a backup plan. We need to find his trump card first. Father Lin nodded. Wanzi is right, but that brat is very secretive. How do we find it? The answer automatically popped into Lin Ye's mind. His trump card is in the abandoned factory in the west of the city. That's where he's hidden his smuggling ledgers, as well as the leverage contract that the original owner was tricked into signing. Su Wanzi's eyes lit up. I have a way. She immediately called her assistant. Check all the surveillance footage from the abandoned factory in the west of the city, as well as Xiao Ni's movements for the past 6 months. Focus on any late-night entries and exits. After hanging up, she looked at Lin Yi with a hint of a smile in her eyes. Lin Yi, it looks like we'll have to team up. Lin Yi? I didn't say anything. So how did Su Wansi know where to investigate? It wasn't just Su Wansi. Chu Yao also took action. When she heard that Xiao Ni was using underhanded tactics against the Lin family, she directly took her people and wrecked Xiao Ni's logistics company. There's a price to pay for messing with Lin Yi. Chu Yao looked at the completely trashed warehouse, her gaze icy. She had heard Lin Yi's inner voice and knew this warehouse was full of smuggled goods. Luo Shui didn't stay idle either. Using the Luo family's connections in the pharmaceutical world, she found out that Xiao Ni's ancestral secret formula was actually a substandard drug and reported it directly to the Drug Administration Bureau. For a time, Xiao Ni was attacked from both front and back. His logistics company was trashed. The smuggling ledgers were found by Su Wansi's people, the substandard drugs were exposed, and even the incriminating contracts he had hidden in an abandoned factory were discovered by Chu Yao. Xiao Ni completely panicked. He couldn't understand how he, the clear protagonist, could be forced into such a corner by a villain like Lin Yi. Lin Yi, I'll fight you to the death. Xiao Ni went completely insane. He kidnapped Luo Shui, trying to force Lin Yi into a one-on-one fight. When he received the news, Lin Yi was at home playing video games. You can't be serious. Still pulling the kidnapping card at a time like this. He looked at the threatening message on his phone with a helpless expression. Can a long-out-yin script get an update? Grumbling inwardly, he still hurried to the appointed location. The Eastern Docks, the place where the original owner of his body in the book was drowned in the river. Sure enough, Xiao Ni was there, holding a knife to Luo Shui's neck. Lin Yi, you're finally here. Xiao Ni's eyes were bloodshot when he saw him. Hand over the ledgers and the contracts, or I'll kill her. Lin Yi sighed. Xiao Ni, why must you do this? At this point, is there any meaning in struggling? Cut the crap. Xiao Ni roared. I am the protagonist. How could I possibly lose to a villain like you? Protagonist. Lin Yi laughed. You think you're worthy? His inner thoughts were clearly transmitted to the kidnapped Luo Shui's ears. Inside the shipping container behind Xiao Ni is his last batch of smuggled cars. Chu Yao is already waiting outside with the police. He thinks he's the protagonist, but in reality, he's long been nothing more than a buffoon. Luo Shui's eyes lit up. Catching Xiao Ni off guard, she suddenly kicked him in the stomach. Caught unprepared, Xiao Ni cried out in pain, and the knife in his hand fell to the ground. Just then, police sirens wailed from outside the docks. Chu Yao rushed in with the police, followed by Su Wansi and members of the Luo family. Xiao Ni, you're under arrest. Chu Yao looked at the disheveled Xiao Ni, her gaze icy cold. Xiao Ni looked at the suddenly appeared police, then at the calm-faced Lin Yi, and finally understood. He had lost from the very beginning. He didn't lose to Lin Yi, but to the plot and to the women who were supposed to be his. As Xiao Ni was being led away by the police, he was still shouting frantically, I'm the protagonist. I haven't lost. Lin Yi stood on the dock, watching his retreating figure being escorted away, and suddenly felt a bit wistful. It's finally over. He sighed. Su Wansi walked to his side and said softly, What's over is Xiao Ni, not us. Chu Yao and Luo Shui also walked over, looking at him with different emotions in their eyes. Lin Yi looked at the 3 women before him who were supposed to belong to Xiao Ni, and suddenly felt his scalp tingle. No way. The plot has gone this far off track. Don't tell me I have to inherit Xiao Ni's harem, he wailed internally. Hearing this, Su Wansi, Chu Yao, and Luo Shui couldn't help but laugh. Under the setting sun, the wind from the docks lifted their long hair and also blew away all of Lin Yi's confusion. Perhaps a plot like this wasn't so bad after all. After Xiao Ni's arrest, the crisis facing the Lin Corporation was resolved. In fact, with Su Wansi's help, the business even reached a new level. Lin Yi became the publicly acknowledged life winner in their circle. Young Master Lin, you're our idol now, Zhang Biao said with a face full of admiration. Miss Su, Miss Chu, and Miss Luo all see you in a new light. That charisma is unmatched. Hearing this, Lin Yi just wanted to bury his head in the sand. What charisma? I just coasted to victory. He raged at the air. Why does no one believe I'm just an ordinary rich second-generation kid? Just as he was losing his mind, Su Wansi walked in. Lin Yi, the shareholders' meeting is about to start. It's time to go. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, looking at him with a hint of a smile in her eyes. Oh, coming. Lin Yi quickly followed. At the shareholders' meeting, Lin Ye's father announced his retirement to a background role, appointing Lin Yi as the new chairman of the board. I can't do it, Dad. Lin Yi waved his hands in panic. I can't even read a financial statement. He thought to himself, make me the chairman? That's harder than making me fight Xiao and I. I just want to be a hands-off boss, playing games, watching movies, and eating big meals every day. Hearing this, Su Wansi from offstage gave a light cough. Lin Yi, don't be so modest. I believe in your abilities. Chu Yao also nodded, that's right. If you can even take care of Xiao and I, is there anything you can't do? Luo Shui said with a smile. Young Master Lin, we all support you. Lin Yi, why did he feel like he was being railroaded into this? In the end, he was forced to become the chairman of the board. Fortunately, with Su Wansi helping him handle company affairs, Chu Yao helping him fend off various troubles, and Luo Shui helping him manage his health. Yes, because he often stayed up late playing games, he was forced by Luo Shui to drink health-preserving soups. His life as the chairman was quite relaxed. As the days went by, Lin Yi gradually grew accustomed to this arranged life. He no longer obsessed over why the plot had gone awry, nor was he fixated on being a slacker, because he discovered that being surrounded by Su Wansi, Chu Yao, and Luo Shui was actually quite nice. One day, as Lin Yi was playing games in his office, Su Wansi walked in. Lin Yi, there's good news. She was holding a document, a smile on her face. We've acquired Shaoni's former logistics company. The entire logistics line in the east of the city now belongs to us. Lin Yi didn't even look up. Oh, impressive. Also, Su Wansi walked to his side and said softly, they all say that the you right now is the real Dragon King. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment, then looked up. What Dragon King? Am I not the villain? Su Wansi smiled and reached out to ruffle his hair. Not anymore. Lin Yi looked at her smile, then at Chu Yao and Luo Shui peeking in from the doorway, and suddenly understood something. Perhaps, from the moment he transmigrated, he was no longer the villain Lin Yi from the book. He was Lin Yi, the new Dragon King, in this world he had once complained about. Although this Dragon King seemed a bit different. For example, he was still being urged by Chu Yao to practice boxing, forced by Luo Shui to drink health-preserving soup, and watched over by Su Wansi to approve documents. But Lin Yi felt that this kind of life was pretty good. At least, he wouldn't be drowned in the river. The end.